squash is the star in most of my summer recipes. So here are my top tips for growing beautiful squash. The first thing is to pick the right variety of squash. Right here in the South, we like the yellow squash, zucchini, and crookneck squash. All of that grows really well here. And it's gonna depend kind of on your zone. And so make sure you have the right squash for the right zone and in the right soil. And it'll be, you need a pH of around 6.5 to 7 for your soil, and you can get that tested with your local co-op. Adequate spacing, you're gonna need to plant these about 3 feet apart. And you can also grow these vertically, don't forget that. Test your soil. Before you ever plant, make sure that you've got really rich, nutrient-dense soil and make sure it's well draining. Water the right way. You're gonna want to water at the base of the plants, and you need about 1 to 2 inches per week. And lastly, watch for diseases and pests. Vine borers, cucumber beetles, they are out here. And the best thing you can do, if you can't see them to pick them off, is just use a little bit of Sevin dust or a little bit of pesticide you may have organic you like to use. At the end of the season, make sure to get all the debris away so that no disease can stay in your soil. There are a few problems, and I want to give you some solutions to those problems with growing squash that we've run into. One I just mentioned, and it's a vine borer. They're horrible here, but there's a couple of solutions. If you can see them, pick them off. I told you about the dust or whatever, but the other thing you can do is if you see a place that has one, you can cut the vine off and then slice it down, get rid of the part where the borer was on, get rid of the borer obviously, and put some of the dirt over the wound of the plant, and it will help in production. So that's one of the things that you can do. Also, just make sure that you look up the right variety for your area. Butternut squash usually does good, so if you can't grow any other kind of squash, that one is a great variety if you're having problems with the borers. The second problem that we have out here is powdery mildew. I've got a plant to show you that has that right now. And one of the best solutions, in my opinion, is to pull the whole plant up. If it's not producing, you might as well just pull it up. And you can see how easy that was. It was on its last leg. But there are other solutions that you can do. You can use potassium bicarbonate, and you can, get rid of that. Another thing is to make sure that you water at the base. We don't have a watering system out here, so this just gonna be from, God's rain. So it's gonna come straight down on it. But if you did, it would be better to water at the base. And lastly, make sure you rotate your crops so that disease doesn't spread just in the one area with this mildew. Another problem that we have, mostly with our tomatoes, not so much with our squash, is blossom end rot. Calcium usually takes care of that. And if you have nitrogen fertilizer, don't over-fertilize wherever you're having blossom end rot. Squash bugs are another big problem, and you can see how they've ruined this plant right here. We're not out here enough to see, but look at how brittle this is. It's beginning to turn brown and wilt. Anytime that happens, you need to get rid of the whole part of the diseased or the bug-ridden plant. You can also make sure crop rotation when this happens is super important. The last problem that I've heard people talk about, we haven't really had this problem as much, but it's when the flowers come out on the plant, but then it doesn't produce fruit. They just fall to the ground, they just do. And that can be from the lack of pollinators. So be careful to really encourage the pollinator population, your bees and all of that kind of thing. And don't use pesticides that are gonna kill the pollinators. So thank y'all for joining in today and hearing all about squash. I've got so many great recipes coming up. You're gonna love the recipes, and they are full and packed full of squash and tomatoes and okra and all kinds of summer vegetables. Happy gardening.